Boop. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Mike Geary here for the Geek Pridecast on this Sunday evening. With me tonight, we have another guest, but we will start off with our usual faces. We have Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening.
Cristina.
Hello, everyone.
And our special guest tonight, Tom Ward.
Hi, guys.
So, Tom, who are you? What do you do?
My name is Tom Ward. I'm a comic book writer. Since about 2014, I've been releasing a self-published independent series called Merrick the Sensational Elephant Man, which now we're up to 11 single issues. We've done a kind of spin-off prequel graphic novella. We've done, as far as I'm aware, the first ever crossover-ish comic on Kickstarter. We've done a first edition, collected edition paperback, and we're on Kickstarter now, and we've 250% funded our second paperback collection. So we are definitely one of the longer running independent comics that kind of self-published, been using crowdfunding. Pretty much one of the longest running ones out there.
As you can see from the background, that's where all his inventory goes.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely have to have the space for self-publishing, or you're kind of living in boxes.
Why did you self-publish rather than going like forward to the traditional publishing route and getting a publisher and going?
It basically, I wanted to make a comic. That was my goal. Like, I'd been in bands and I'd done that. I played gigs and we'd done some recordings, and then that had all come to an end. And I was like, well, what else am I into? And what can I do that I don't really have to rely on anyone else at first? And I was like, I really like comics. I think I could write a comic. So I kind of, got my idea, formulated that, thought about how to do it, wrote the scripts. And then the next thing was, how do you make a comic? I certainly didn't know. I didn't have any kind of background in that kind of thing. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anyone else who'd done it. And I saw some people on Kickstarter, basically. I think it was before people in the UK could even use the service. I saw some Americans and they were Kickstarting stuff. And I just kind of had a browse through and I saw some other people's projects and I just thought, this looks great. I don't know how to go to a publisher and approach them and do that kind of thing, but I could definitely see myself doing this the way that these guys have. So I kind of found an artist and we talked about it and we thought, oh, we can definitely do this. I had the scripts ready, gave them to him. He checked out, liked it. He started doing the artwork and we finished the first issue because, like I say, that was the kind of goal. We were just fans of comics and wanted to make our own. So we gave that out as a free download. On the same day we launched our first Kickstarter to fund the first 4 issues. And that was a success. And we just kind of gone from there. And it felt like the natural way to do it, rather than pitching things around and waiting for other people to say we could do this, or umming and ahhing about it and waiting around. You could be, months and months in limbo, if not like a year or something. So it was like, well, we can just do it. Why not?
It's it's very rock and roll. It's very punk to do the sort of self-published thing, because it's like back in the hardcore days, it was all about, especially with punk as well. It was all about sort of kind of self-releasing your own music and stuff. So it's very similar to the sort of self-releasing the comic book.
Totally, yeah. That's what I was always into, like punk rock and hardcore, and everyone just kind of putting their own gigs on, recording their own records, putting them out. And it was just the natural thing to do for me. It was like I couldn't see like Marvel or DC or Dark Horse or Image or anyone else. Like, why would they care? Like, we've done nothing before. There was no reason for them to even open your email, really. But if we just do it ourselves, no one can stop us, basically.
Yeah, why not?
Kickstarter has become massive at the moment. I mean, it is huge. How did you kind of stand out from the crowd and make sure that you were funded?
I think initially, the first one really was by the skin of our teeth. We kind of were quite ambitious. Rather than just funding the printing of the first issue that we'd finished, we actually tried to do the first full story arc. So we were actually funding multiple issues, which I don't think I've seen kind of people really do other than us. And it was more like kind of a subscription thing. So people were backing us, and then like a year and a half later, they were still getting issues through the door because we were posting out as they were released. So yeah, we really kind of did everything we could. Luke Parker, the artist, he was doing sketches and original art as pledge rewards to kind of bump things up. We were doing giveaways, that kind of thing. But I think ultimately we were probably one of the first kind of UK kind of set of creators to really do it. So I think that stood out as well. And a lot of other people have said to me that they saw what we were doing and that kind of thought, oh, I can do this. And, you know, it kind of stood out that way, I think, as well.
There's quite a lot of independent sort of comic book creators who use Kickstarter as their sort of their base now. There's lots, and there, you know, some really, we've had a few on the show. So obviously Kickstarter is a godsend for self-publishers like yourself.
Well, I'm sure you've seen, like, it's kind of not just self-publishers anymore. Obviously, like Boom Studios did the Power Rangers hardcover on Kickstarter. You've got Duncan Jones, is it? Duncan Jones did the Maddie campaign. You've got Keanu Reeves on there.
Yes.
Comic. And you know, Scott Snyder, Skybound have done projects. So it is quite interesting the way it's kind of gone from kind of unknowns doing their first release to literally, like, not even the top of the comic industry. Like, Keanu Reeves has got to be, you know, up there at the top of any industry, and he's going to Kickstarter to do his book rather than just using the traditional publishing models.
There's a lot more control. Sorry, Cristina, you carry away.
Yeah, I was just saying that I don't think it's that fair. I mean, if you're super famous and you already have a lot of money, which a lot of famous people do have, to come to Kickstarter, I think it kind of steals from, I don't know, the spotlight from people who actually do need the help financially to fund their own projects. And I get a little annoyed, you know, like, oh, we need the money to fund a special episode of, I don't know, Gilmore Girls, but you don't. You have the money.
I totally agree. I don't mind so much when big names kind of come on to do comics when it's like a, you know, a personal independent thing, and it is them just putting the book out. But when it is publishers or books that are going to go straight to publishers, they really are kind of they kind of hogging the stage. They've got all the space on the shelf in the shops, which we don't have access to. But then they're taking over the, you know, the top picks, the staff picks. They're getting featured in the Kickstarter mail outs. So yeah, I can definitely see why people get annoyed with it, because if you are a big corporation, for you to make money, you should be spending money to kind of push it, not finding ways around it, because they're screwing over the shops as well. Like, if they're not selling those books through local comic book stores, like, local comic book stores are missing out on some of the biggest sellers. So it's definitely unfair on you know, a few different levels, without sounding like I'm complaining about it too much.
You know, it's within your right, I think. I mean, I don't feel like giving Keanu Reeves money. I mean, I love Keanu Reeves, but I think he has enough to spare.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's so good though, because he's one of those famous people who is like super nice and charitable. We've all heard the stories that, like, I think in The Matrix he gave like half of his paycheck to charity. And you know, there's other things where he gives money away left, right, center. He's got like charities all over the show. So he obviously makes a lot of money, but doesn't need all of it. So he's happy enough just to sort of kind of give excess away to people. So, you know, I think with Keanu Reeves, he's sort of on that line of, you know, yeah.
His publishers should know better, though, shouldn't they?
Yeah, very true, very true. But the thing is, with Kickstarter, I don't think there's competition in a way, because there's so much of it, and it's literally down to interest. So it's not like you have to spend too much money on publicizing it and stuff. It's literally just people go on there, and is their interest. Like, I go on there, and like, I'm a massive board game guy, so I have all kinds of Kickstarter board games. I've got about 55 backed sort of board games and stuff on Kickstarter.
And they do huge numbers, the board games, don't they?
Yeah, like massive numbers, like millions and stuff, and I'm the sucker who has to have all of it, So, I don't go for the base game. I go for the base game and the expansions and all the other sort of gubbins that comes with. Oh, pretty miniatures. I must have pretty miniatures and stuff. So it's like, but the thing is, there's so many of them, and some people will never have heard them. But it's just like, that looks cool, I'll have that. And it's not because it's promoted. The odd time there's a Facebook advert because it comes my way, because Facebook knows me and knows that I like board games, so that'll come up. But it's generally, I'll go on and I'll see something and go, that's freaking cool, and then I'll back it and stuff. So it's sort of, I think it levels the playing field slightly, because you can't just sort of kind of pump out loads of stuff in it, because you don't have to spend any money. It's just an idea. As long as you've got a camera, you've got some editing software to sort of put a video together, and a bit of money maybe to put on Facebook, then you're golden, aren't you?
Yeah, there absolutely is like a really good community of people, especially in comics, who are just browsing Kickstarter to see what's new, and see, because comics is so diverse, like they can literally be about anything. So there really is something for everyone. And the more niche kind of thing you're in, the more likely it's not going to be kind of covered by the mainstream. So Kickstarter is ideal for that. So if you're really into like a deep dive genre thing or whatever, like chances are you're going to find someone else who's into it, who's made a book. And that is great that people literally, on most of our campaigns, I'd say about half of them are just people who just kind of have been browsing around, took a look at the project, saw the sample pages, maybe downloaded the free issue, and then took a chance on us, which is great, because most of them come back. So yeah, we couldn't ask for anything better than that. And yeah, like you were saying about just having simple video editing and stuff, like I don't even do that. I tell people, I just record a quick video on my phone, just like one take, just to kind of try and connect with people on a basic level, to show that I'm, a real genuine person. And, a couple of pages of sample art is all you really need, and you can get started. So it really is open to everyone, which I really like about it.
Do you find that the sort of niche comic book space is quite similar to the sort of niche hardcore / metal space, where you got a lot of people who they don't want the mainstream stuff, they don't want the stuff that sort of everybody's into, they want something that's their own, something a bit more personal?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's exactly like you say, it's exactly the same thing. It's like Marvel and DC are great, and the classic superheroes and stuff, but it's the same as listening to the radio, or going to the big kind of major record label kind of music events. And then there's obviously just cool stuff going on everywhere else that's just not covered, and you do get you get more of a kind of access to creators. Like people are more likely to reply to your tweets or get to know you, see you at the conventions, because you're doing as many events as possible. And you can definitely build up like your own little kind of scene. And like you say, it's not in competition with like the big guys. You see some people like that, and they're on Facebook and like, I'm starting my own comic book company and we're going to rival Marvel and DC. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not. It's impossible. Like, with all the money in the world, you could never do it. But you could do your own thing. Like, you don't have to be in competition with them. Like, it's about the difference between like breaking into comics and just being over here doing your own thing in comics. I think is the best way I think about it.
Like, I had the thing when music, especially when I was younger, like when I first came to Manchester, and I was like into like Belgian hardcore and stuff. So it was always about sort of good what's it called? What was the Belgian label called? That Archangel and stuff were on.
If it's not chocolate, we don't know.
What are they called? Good Life Records. And so like Poison the Well started there, and there was Archangel and all this like like there's loads of sort of really niche hardcore bands, and I literally wouldn't buy anything unless it was sort of kind of Belgian hardcore, sort of from that sort of thing. Killswitch Engage, I was into them like before they were like massive. Like I had their first album on Ferret Records. And like I was just like, I'm all into bands that people don't know about, so I can brag about this cool band that I know, and it's just me. And when you like Poison the Well, I love Poison the Well even to this day. And I remember sort of messaging them, and they got right back to me, and it was cool because, like you said, you had somebody who was going to actually interact with you, unlike if you know a massive band who's not going to do that. So for me, it was always like, yeah, I'm into all of these bands, and it's like, yeah, that band, I'm not, fine. They're all right, but they're not this Belgian hardcore band that I love and stuff.
It's weird that you're talking about Belgium, because like me and my mates, we do go to like some festival. We go to festivals in Belgium.
There's some good hardcore festivals in Belgium.
There's this really small one called Brack Rock, which is like punk and hardcore, and it's insane. It just takes over this tiny town. No one who lives there knows what's going on for like a weekend. There's kids from all over the world. Like you're talking to like a Japanese guy who just likes the same music as you. You're talking to like Americans, Australians, everyone from every country in Europe. Like it's just basically in a park. All the bands are just walking around. It's just is that the exact kind of thing that it's great to kind of foster, where everyone's kind of into the same thing, and I kind of just all on the same level, rather than having superstars that are kind of out of reach and making it feel like they've got something that everyone else doesn't have. Like it's not possible to be a creator because you have to be special. I really like when it's people like these people aren't special, they're just like you can do it as well, and I just really like that vibe a lot more.
The thing is, you do with especially the hardcore thing was very personal. All the hardcore gigs you would go to, it felt so much. It felt different. Like I love like bands like the Deftones I've been into forever. I love them and stuff, but you're never going to see them in a small venue. The smallest venue I've ever seen the Deftones in was the Limelight, and that was like in Belfast, and that was from when Adrenaline came out. That was like one of their first albums, so it was just like a long time ago, and they were quite small, but when big bands, especially like Killswitch Engage, I never got to see them before they became big and stuff, so and everything, they just played massive venues, so you don't get that sort of kind of intimate thing. But I've seen a lot of really, really good bands with all the best memories coming from small shows, where you can interact with them, like oh god, we had like some of the old dayers with like Knuckle Dust and stuff like that, and some of those really like old school sort of hardcore bands and stuff. You just like
no barrier to the crowd, like there's some kid jumping on your head.
Yeah, people are picking up pennies and flicking their arms around and stuff. And you're just like, granted, I'm too old for that bullshit now. So like, if somebody throws a fist at me, they get a fist thrown back at them. But it's just like I used to love that stuff. I was all like, I saw Biohazard God knows how many times. I remember my first gig in Manchester was a Biohazard gig, and I just crowd surfed the entire time. And I literally spent most of my time on the stage and then off the stage and just flying around. I loved it. It was amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to comic festivals in Europe? You mentioned like Dove.
Europe, I have done Netherlands Comic Con. I think that's what it's called. Oh, no, it's called Dutch Comic Con, and that is in. Oh, where is it? Let me have a quick Google. Yeah, I've done that twice. That's huge. That's kind of I'd say on par with kind of London MCM, maybe even potentially a bit bigger, probably a bit bigger. And that had some huge guests. Joe Hill was there one of the years when I was, which was good. Didn't sell many comics, unfortunately, but there was no queue to get Joe Hill to sign some copies of Lock and Key, so I guess he wasn't doing too great either. But it, the kind of other side of Comic Cons, like the media guests and the video game stuff, like that obviously that was huge. It's in a huge kind of convention center, but that was good. I really wanted to get and do some kind of German ones, maybe Berlin, and I looked into some kind of Polish and Czech Republic ones, but obviously with Brexit and stuff happening, I don't know what the kind of you'd have to look into it more now, whether you could go over and sell books or.
Does that affect sales and Kickstarter? Because I know I am very, very ardently anti-Brexit and have been since day one. And so I've pontificated about this, and I don't care what people think. I literally, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country, whatever. But anyway, different strokes for different folks. We'll not go into that. But do you see that it sort of had an effect on your shipping and stuff? Because I know through all the board games and stuff, especially ones that I bought last year, and now because of Brexit, it's affected them. I have to pay more for shipping, and I have to pay extras on top of things because there's import charges and stuff, which is really, and it's delayed things. Everything coming from China and stuff now. There's lots of delays.
I think it's hard to tell the full extent at the minute because you have to be fair, and you do have to take the pandemic into account. So when stuff's getting delayed, it is really hard to tell what that's down to. We put our last issue out, issue 11, kind of beginning of December. So I really was racing against time to kind of get everything fulfilled, especially the European parcels before the 31st of December, obviously. Prices have gone up since then, but they are constantly going up all the time. And I've heard people now saying about things getting turned around at certain countries depending on what couriers you use and stuff, which is obviously a nightmare, and it's going to need more work and more stuff looking into. But the biggest change initially from my experience was having to put a customs slip on every single European parcel. Now previously I only had to do that for further afield, like the kind of American orders, Australia, stuff outside the EU, and you could just put the name and address and send them out. But having to hand fill out hundreds and hundreds of custom slips for every parcel is a real time sink, manpower wise, and just really frustrating. I don't think there's any way I can automate it or run them through a printer or anything like that. So it is literally a case of sitting there with the TV on or some music on and just spending a couple of hours filling in import slips or export slips. So yeah, I'm going to have to do more work looking into it for our current one to go out. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that everything's okay, but it is going to be extra work. It's just a ridiculous thing to take part in. I don't know, like you say, you don't want to get into it, but why would anyone want this? I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're not a nerd podcast, but certain things we find ourselves sort of delving into is generally Donald Trump, which gladly he's fucked off, so that's good, and obviously Brexit. But what are you going to do? It's just the way it is. You just got to deal with it. Fucking move on. Yeah,
it's the world we live in, and you just got to kind of do your best to make your way through it, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it and stuff. It's just shit happens. it's not great, but you got to deal with it the best you can, and try and make the best of it and stuff. So yeah. So just one thing I was thinking of just before you sort of we went on to that. It's do you find that does it annoy you that Comic Cons are more about games and pop figures and stuff and less about comics?
To a point, a little bit. I'd kind of prefer it if they weren't called Comic Cons, if there's a very minor kind of focus on comics, if it's kind of an overall thing, whatever. But I've done events where I'm literally the only person selling comics, and it's just call it something else, call it a sci-fi convention, call it a fantasy convention, call it a shit convention, whatever. Just be a bit more honest about it. I think there's obviously the Marvel films have been huge, and the TV shows, and it's such a massive thing now that I think going to Comic-Con and selling Comic-Con is more important to a lot of people than the kind of content, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm pretty bent out on conventions the best of times. Even the ones that are pure comics, at the minute, I'm kind of just I might have a year, I've had a year and a half off now. But yeah, I'm not really in a mega rush to go back.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I feel can just be done online now. So I can interact with people through Twitter, through other social media. I can sell books. I can do Kickstarters. There's not too much that I need to do other than kind of, it's nice to see other creators and my friends and spend time with human beings, which none of us have done in a while now. So like that would be nice to go for a pint or just hang out. But all the other stuff, to pay a couple of £100 plus for a table, plus traveling, plus a hotel, plus, you know, your time for like 48 hours, 72 hours. Like I can do a lot of that stuff at home more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really trying to kind of get the efficiency angle down at the minute, and kind of just streamline things to make it work as easy as possible, basically.
Yeah, I've always sort of questioned, you know, I can understand bigger comic books. Well, it depends. So there's London Film and Comic-Con, and that's generally quite heavily weighted towards sort of comics and stuff. Well, the ones I've been to anyway. MCM, the bigger ones and things like that, they're very much a case of comic books are sort of have their own little area, and it's sort of kind of stuck off in the corner somewhere. And
yeah, the comic book village.
Yeah, and it's not, and it's like, for me, it's like I wander around the whole thing, and I go into the comic book village, and you get the sort of, there'll be people who are there, and they'll either know the guys who, you know, they'll know the guys who've got the comics, or they're you know, lost. But you don't very often get people sort of kind of going in that direction intentionally and stuff. And I feel like it's, you know, for people who are trying to make a living out of it and trying to promote stuff, I don't know what benefit comes of it and stuff. Like I have a few friends who sort of do create their own comic books and stuff, and they've done that. But from my experience, I'm just like, it's not that busy. You get the odd person now and again, which, you know, it's great because you do get to interact with somebody. But for yourself as a business, I'm not sure what that does for you, because like you said, you could probably do a lot more in the same time period on Twitter, online, promoting stuff, whereas sitting there, you know, getting upset or getting quite annoyed because there's, you know, there's nobody really around to see you, must be quite disconcerting, basically.
I think it comes down to as well, like it's like people look at the numbers and they're like, there's X amount of people at MCM. If I only sell a book or talk to, you know, 1%, then, you know, I'll make X amount. But like the realities of it is you're probably not even going to talk to 1% of the people that are there.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah,
it's so hard to recoup your costs, especially when you're starting out. If you've got one single comic book that you worked really hard, you spent a year making this book, you've put your heart and soul into it, you're selling it for a £5, like you're going to have to sell what? You're going to sell after about 40 to even break even on your table before you talk about your travel, your time. And that's a lot of comics to sell at a convention. It really is. We didn't start to break even until we kind of did our first kind of paperback, which sells a lot easier and has a bigger markup basically on print costs to make it worthwhile. So you do need to kind of do these things when you're starting out to kind of build a bit of a network and get to know people and see people. But I think the main problem is, like you say, the people who are going into the Comics Village are the same people. And so you once you kind of you meet those people, there's really not that many new people to go to. You see the same people after event after event, which is great because they're great people. It's great to hang out and talk. But to kind of promote a book or to make comics bigger to a bigger audience, it's just not happening. I think there needs to be more like free entry events is what I think needs to be done, because if you're charging people, like, what's a ticket to MCM? Is it like 15 quid, 20 quid?
Oh man, it's more than that, I think. No, yeah, it's more than
quid.
That. Yeah,
that's a lot, especially, you know, teenagers, kids, early 20s, you know, kind of got a bit, you know, not got a great job, not got a lot of expendable income, to have to pay that much money to go in to look at what you can buy. It's kind of crazy to me.
I'm trying to see how much they are at the minute. Obviously they're not going. All right, okay. So entry between 17 and 69 quid. No, don't get me wrong. I loved MCM and stuff, but my sort of experience for MCM was not the convention, really. It was the sort of kind of meeting the people, getting horrendously drunk, and maybe, Geek Pride getting an interview with some people now and again, so I spent a lot of time not even in the convention center and stuff, so it's just, for me it was just an experience. So and a lot of people do, it's literally just a case of dressing up in cosplay, wandering around, buying things. When I do spend my time in there, it's just wandering around buying stuff, and
yeah, I think a lot of people just enjoy the experience of it.
Yeah,
I think that's what they go for. And then you got the other conventions. You got like Thought Bubble, which is like all comics.
Yep.
Yes,
that's great. Love Thought Bubble. It's so big, especially when it's kind of moved now. I haven't been to the new location. I really liked it when it was the Armories in Leeds, and then there's the Lakes. And why I do really like about the Lakes is that it is free entry to the comics clock tower, so anyone can go in, and you do get people who wouldn't normally do that kind of thing. It's mainly kind of middle-aged hikers trying to get out of the rain in Kendal, but it is new people, and I think it is good to kind of get new people interested in things, because literally there are comics about everything. Like, doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, what you're into, there'll be something for you. So it's better to get that across to people, I think, and then have the panels and the separate events as ticketed events to kind of raise funds and make sure it's not over, kind of there's not too many people trying to go to too many events. But I think the key is to get like new people, getting free entry to see what people are doing, really.
Yeah.
And speaking of the people that you're trying to reach, who were you trying to reach with your comic? I mean, I saw the description that if you like this and if you like that, this is the comic book for you. But is it the specific group that you're trying to reach, or?
Honestly, it's a hard one to nail down for us. I guess anyone who likes anything kind of pulpy, but we do have kind of a Bronze Age superhero vibe. We have like a horror element, kind of, we do some kind of Lovecrafty kind of stuff. We do some like kind of Golden Age superhero kind of stuff. We do some pulp adventure. Like, the aesthetic appeals to, I guess, like steampunk fans, because although it is not steampunk and it's not the cogs and the technology and stuff, there is the kind of Victorian aesthetic. We do have some swear words and stuff, so it's probably not for kids, but if I read it when I was a kid, I'd probably love it, because kids love stuff that they're not supposed to read.
Yep.
So it's kind of, it's not super adult, but it's quite adult, but it's kind of, I think most people could enjoy it. We get a lot of similarities to Hellboy, because Luke's art is very Mike Mignola. I think if you like Hellboy, I think you'll enjoy it. But I also think it won't be as similar as you may expect. I think you'll take something else away from it. But yeah, we're kind of we're very independent, but it is kind of got like a mainstream appeal as well, even though that's not something we're not actively trying to, we're not actively trying to sell something to the masses. We're not trying to objectively be popular, and we're not working out what is popular and trying to copy that or go down those paths. But yeah, it's definitely like, I think people have described it like that before, like an indie book with mainstream appeal is kind of how it's been described.
5 years from now, and there's super massive comic book company, and he's like, I want my face blurred.
How do you find like the reception of the comic book compared to the UK and Europe?
So we've got, through Kickstarter, we have people all over the world, really. Like I said, we did Dutch Comic Con, didn't really sell many books. But I don't think anyone was selling many books at that event because of how that event was. I think the UK has got really, I genuinely think the UK is a really strong kind of independent comics scene at the minute. And I'm genuinely surprised there's people out there that haven't been kind of picked up for like a second like British invasion, like they were in the what was it, like late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah, early 90s.
Yeah, Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman get picked up to
Grant Talbot,
Grant Morrison. Yeah, all those guys getting picked up to kind of do a fresh voice on kind of the the US books. I'm genuinely surprised people haven't been picked up for that more at the minute, because there are a lot of people doing really kind of cool things and stuff that's different, and they kind of not really fizzling out. Like, people used to kind of do 1 issue, 2 issues and fizzle out. Now we've got people kind of consistently putting more and more books out, like finishing mini series, being more ambitious, doing graphic novels. And I think the crowdfunding makes that possible, where it wasn't before. You either had to draw and write the book yourself, or go really heavy on credit cards, or have a great job and just have money to burn. So yeah, I think the UK is really putting out great stuff at the minute. But yeah, people all over do seem to like it. Some of our biggest backers, lots of original art goes to like France. There's quite a few Polish backers. It goes all over the world. It really is quite exceptional when you go to the post office and you see you sending. I think I sent a book to Thailand. I think I wasn't expecting to do that. Obviously, America is still probably the number one consumers, I'd say, of this kind of thing. But yeah, it's great all over the world, basically. Fairly evenly spread, I'd say.
Is there any places that just do not like do you get reviews and stuff? Is there any countries that just like, yeah, we don't like this isn't our thing?
No, the reviews have all been good. I don't think I never really thought about reviews by country. So yeah, I couldn't say.
My band, right? So we had an album, like, we've been going for like 20 years now, but we had an album in 2011. And we sent it out for review because it's a fucking good album. We sent it out to be reviewed and stuff. So we sent it all over the world. We were getting great reviews in America, great reviews in Holland, the UK, Australia. Everywhere was loving us. Germany fucking hated us. Fucking hated us. I don't think we got anything better than a 6. And it was just like, we couldn't understand why, they just had this thing against us. Like, everywhere else around the world, France, we were going to go on tour to France, and it was great, but for some reason Germany were just like, no, we do not like this at all.
Nice.
And we were wondering if it might be because the album cover was like, it was red and it had like a black eagle and stuff on it, and it was just, we're not sure if it had some sort of symbolic sort of kind of historic resonance with them that they didn't appreciate or something. But yeah, they did not like that in any way, shape or form.
I like that you're not sure that was the reason.
It's definitely not the music, Cristina, because it was awesome.
No. It was the eagle and the red background and everything.
It was. Well, it's not. It's technically, if you look at the sort of would it have been the old sort of kind of Prussian sort of bird, or in sort of a lot of the old sort of kind of kingdoms, like in the Tsarist Russia had one, the Prussians had one, and stuff. Sort of like it's kind of like one of those sort of birds. We didn't think anything of it, to be honest. We just sort of
The thing is, it's like with people, everybody says, oh, you should care about the soul. But the first thing you see about a person, it's their appearance, whether they're nice, they're clean shaven and things like that. You don't see their soul. So on your album, the first thing they saw was that.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter the history behind it.
Yeah, I don't think it helps that our band's called Skin the Pig either, so so it just sort of it goes. We're not as bad as the sounds. It's just a name, but yeah, there you go.
You can't win them all.
Can't win them all. The thing is, I don't care now, but
Sure you don't.
You cut to the heart of me, Cristina.
I'm sorry. Go skin a pig or something.
She's so blunt.
Okay.
Eastern Europeans.
Oh.
Straight.
Wow.
You are blunt. Do you know what? I called my girlfriend's Polish, yeah, and I said she was blunt because there's a whole thing about Polish honesty. They literally just tell you how it is. There's no sugarcoating. There's no sort of it's okay. It's literally, this is it. That's shit. I don't like that. I don't enjoy this. There's no sort of like, yeah, but it's good, but, or like you get in the UK. And I said, you're really blunt, and she took offense, and I was just like, but you are blunt.
Matt, we need to talk about this thing called diplomacy.
Well, that's the thing is, there was no diplomacy coming in that direction, and I was like, but that's what bluntness is. Surely, if you're just saying it without any sort of kind of, I don't mind it, to be honest. I'm used to it now, and I kind of prefer people who are just sort of straight up. You know, that's why I like Cristina so much, because she doesn't suffer fools. She literally just says how it is. So, but yeah. Anyway, Cristina, carry on.
You made me lose my train of thought. No, I was talk a bit about the fact that you actually have right now. You mentioned that at some point you had the first 4 issues available for free download, and right now you still have issue 1.
Yeah,
right? Because that's the one I got to read.
Issue 1's free download, on our website, www.americ.co.uk. I can send you guys some review copies if you want. Just send me a message on Twitter, or I'll send it to the Twitter page.
Awesome.
So yeah, the first 4 we've collected it in a paperback, and we are funding the next 5 issues in a second paperback. So that's issues 5, 6, the special crossover issue, and then 7 and 8. So that's 2 full story arcs and the crossover issue. We've done a few more single issues after that, but we'll kind of collect them into a third book when we've got a bit more out, and we've got a couple more stories under our belt, and sold more single issues as well.
How many of yous are there? You say we. How many of yous are there?
So I write it. A lad called Luke Parker from Nottingham does the artwork. So he does all the artwork. So he does the pencils, the inks, and the colours. And Micah Myers is an American professional letterer who does the lettering for us now. So there's basically a solid team of 3. My girlfriend Claire Lenton is our editor as well. So she's got a master's in like Gothic literature, that kind of thing. So again, like that kind of feeds right in with what we're doing. And she'll make sure I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and does a very good job of that. So go on, sorry.
I just went through the first issue, and I have to say to everyone that plans to read it, get your wallet ready, because you will want to see what happens next, because I do. And it's both cool and annoying. But no, it's really it really catches your attention, especially if you're a little bit familiar with the real Joseph Merrick. I hope I said the name right, because I've only seen it in print.
He's the Elephant Man, isn't he, Merrick?
Yeah. No, I know who he is.
Yeah, but, I wasn't sure. I thought.
Yeah, no, I know who he is. I never heard his name said. I only read it. But I think the original story, his real life story, is really touching. So how and he was such a genuinely nice guy. How did he come to be your character of choice?
So
like, why not pick someone else? I don't know.
Yeah, of course. So I was just kind of in work, bored, just killing time in my own head, as a lot of us obviously do in work. And I was just kind of thinking about comics, and I had this idea that I wanted to make a comic. And I was just thinking in general, just about comics. And I was just thinking how it was funny that there's, Batman, Hawkman, Ant-Man, it's like every animal and then man, to the point where it's kind of just felt like people were just like, whatever, just try this, try that. And I was just thinking, Elephant Man, is that a comic? That'd be quite a good one. Like, if you're thinking about kind of like animal powers, like having like tough skin like an elephant. Elephants are quite big and strong, elephants never forget. So would this character kind of have like a photographic memory or something? And then I was like, hang on a second, Elephant Man is an actual person, like, who existed. So I was like, that's quite strange, but also quite interesting. And I kind of looked to see whether Googled to see if it had been done before, and it hadn't. And I was like, it seems like such an obvious idea that I couldn't understand how it hadn't been done before. And that's what a lot of people come up to me at conventions and say, go, oh, this is kind of so obvious. Has it not been done before? And I was like, no, I'm genuinely as surprised as you, which I think is always kind of a good indicator of a good idea. But as I did more research and kind of read around the subject, and I got like autobiography, not autobiographies, I got biographies, and I've got the kind of stuff written by the doctor, Frederick Treves, and his reports and journals and stuff, and just kind of got every bit of information I could kind of gather. The story kind of fell into place quite naturally. like the doctor who looked after Joseph Merrick in the London hospital, Dr. Frederick Dreves, he was best friends with Thomas Hardy, who was he's quite a famous writer and poet, and he was quite interested in kind of supernatural and ghosts and that kind of thing. And then Frederick Dreves was also a member of the same gentleman's club as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes. And he was, really big into spiritualism and seances and fairies and stuff like that. So the world kind of built itself around, because that's the kind of the vibe that I really like in fiction, kind of occult stuff and secrets and mystery and kind of, what's going on, you don't know. And it kind of just went from there. So like the first story of the first 4 issues is genuinely based around the true story of Joseph Merrick the Elephant Man. Obviously, we've kind of embellished it to make it more of a kind of pulp adventure, but he was, the house, the Penny Gaff, they called it, was the building where it was like a traveling freak show, was based in London, and they were chased out the country by the police. And then they got a new manager who stole Joseph's life savings and left him for dead in Europe. And then he made his way back to London. He was really tired and sick from his journey and ended up in the London hospital. So that is all true, but it's also the jumping off point for our kind of revenge pulp story. So a lot of the things in the first few issues, they are real events, real people, real dates. There's some real quotes in there, but we've just kind of fleshed the rest out. And it was just all stuff that I found really interesting, basically.
That sounds actually really interesting.
Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No. I was just saying that does sound really interesting. Like I'm a massive history guy, so things based on history sort of work for me. So yeah. Sorry.
What I was going to say was about the fact that you mentioned that you don't understand how this was never thought about before. But I think it's very simple, because people like to look at pretty things. And I think people are afraid to actually make a leading character be non-conventionally pretty. And the Elephant Man is not. So I think that's... Were you ever afraid that people won't, I don't know, attach themselves emotionally, so to speak, to the character or to the story?
No, I don't think I actively thought about it that way. I did always kind of want it to be like quite because it is quite a tragic story in real life. So I did kind of want to keep that tone, which made me think a lot about, the classic original runs on Spider-Man, when it just felt like the writers were just out to ruin Peter Parker's life all the time. And it just felt like, how could we make Peter Parker's life worse? So you'll notice in this comic, like I just do kind of, I make him go through horrible things, and it's depressing and kind of a bummer. But I think the fact that he is the Elephant Man and he's a tough guy and he gets through it all is kind of what makes people come back, and hopefully kind of relatable, because we all go through like tough stuff, and it's thinking about all the people who get through it kind of can push you to get through whatever tough time you're having. So I think that's kind of what I was thinking.
And do you have like I don't know, an ending in mind? As in, do you know what will happen to the character? Not historically, obviously he's dead, but
yeah, absolutely. From the start, I had the full story kind of worked out. I think it's really important when you start in a story to kind of, the most important thing to me is the beginning and the ending. So I always kind of knew where it's going, and I still do. And I had certain kind of signpost things that I wanted to happen along the way. And then as we've been kind of heading towards them, ideas have kind of shifted or changed, or we've had more ideas, so we can kind of add more stuff in or kind of refine it to make it better. But we're still on that kind of over arc. So there is always been a plan from the start to the end. And hopefully we'll get there, basically. I think maybe within 30, 40 issues, I'd really like to be one of those kind of classic long run kind of comic series, like Why the Last Man, or those kind of invincible, those kind of image books that have a definite arc, and they're long running, but they're not like the Marvel or DC stuff where it just goes on forever. It's not.
Yeah.
The idea is that stuff will change and progress, and characters will change, and things will come and go, and there is like a genuine story progression.
There was sorry, Cristina, you carry on.
It wasn't me.
Oh, okay, sorry. So there with some of the
It was someone else though.
What?
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, right, sorry.
I was going to ask how closely did you map out the plan for the arc in story arc?
So basically, when I first sat down with the idea, I kind of wrote like a full page, 2 pages maybe, of kind of the overall gist of the story. And then what I do with every story arc is I'll break that down and do the same thing. So I'll write a page of what's going to happen in the story arc, and then within that story arc, I'll write a page of what's going to happen in each issue. So we're kind of going from like the macro to the micro, and I'll just kind of get the beats. So basically, I'll have the full kind of over arc and the beats of everything that's going to happen, and then this beat will be a story arc. So then I'll break that story arc down into different beats, and then I'll kind of work out how many of them are going to fit in an issue. So then I'll work out the beats for an issue, and then I'll kind of write it out, just kind of briefly, kind of get all the ideas down, and then start kind of scripting it and filling in all the blanks, basically.
So you don't, because a lot of the writers that we've talked to, they basically let the characters sort of write the story for them, if you get what I mean. You're very much a case of you have a planned sort of view, you have a roadmap effectively on how things will progress, instead of kind of going, this character's here, we'll just see how he goes.
Yeah, I don't, I'm the complete opposite of that. Like, everything is kind of planned. And I think a lot of other people in comics seem to write issue to issue. So, they'll write the issue, they'll be like, oh, that's cool, we'll do it. And then they'll start thinking about the next one. Whereas I write all the scripts for a story arc at once. And then I'll pass them to the artist, and he kind of just works through them that way. Because the way I kind of look at writing it is, there's like time's not chronological when I'm creating the thing. Time's chronological when you're reading it. But for me, I can take a step back. So that way I will never kind of paint myself into a corner and be trapped. And if I'm doing things in like the 3rd issue in an arc, and it kind of ties into what's happening in the beginning, I can still go back to the beginning and tweak it to make, the symbolism better, or get some symmetry in there, or just kind of just balance stuff out, and make sure it's kind of the best it can be before we start drawing it. So that's the kind of way I look at it. I don't think many other people do it that way. It's probably like a mega control freak way to do things, but I find it works. Because I also don't write the scripts chronologically at all. When I've got all my beats worked out, I'll put them into a spreadsheet, and then I'll look at the spreadsheet and I'll think which page appeals to me most to write, which is going to be the easiest, basically. And then I'll write the easiest page that I know what's going to happen on it. I know what's going to get said. I can kind of see what's going to happen in my head. I'll write that, and then I'll choose the next easiest page. And it might not necessarily be the page after that one. It might be in a different issue. It might be the first page of the first issue. It might be the last page of the last issue. But as I work through it, I do the easiest ones, and I kind of pick the cherries. And as I do that, the ones that I'm less sure about will come more into focus and become easier to write. And that way I don't really have to deal with like writer's block. I'm not sat there thinking I have to do this next page, and I'm banging my head against the desk and I have to go for a walk, or I don't have to do any of that. I'll just find the next thing that's easiest to write, and I'll just write that.
So you don't find that you get writer's block then? Because a lot of the writers, you get a mixture. You get some of them who say they do. A lot of them say no, they don't. Like yourself. What about yourself? Do you work?
I get writers lazy. I'll go for weeks without writing anything, and then I'll do like 48 hours at my keyboard without doing anything else. Like really like an obsessive psychopath. We're just with like post-it notes everywhere, like like a murderer's kind of wall.
String going from all of them.
I don't tend to sit there going, I'm stuck on this bit, or I don't worry about that. I'll just be like, I'm too lazy. I don't want to write. I hate writing. Writing's the worst. And then just I'll slot in and be like, right, we're gonna get this done. 48 hours later, I haven't left the keyboard. Like everyone is worried about me, and then it's like, I've got this script, brilliant.
What level of detail do you go into, like the script, in terms of like guidelines for the artist? I mean, I know artists like Alan Moore, they give like literally pages of information for just a panel, but others just go, it's a room.
I'm pretty bad for that, I think. I probably not like Alan Moore level, but I'll certainly, they say a page of script shouldn't take up more than one page. I'll go to like 2 pages or something like that. I think when you've worked with an artist kind of as long as we've been working together, it becomes a bit easier because Luke is very much on the same page as me. We have the kind of same points of reference. I think we like the same kind of aesthetics, the same kind of films, same kind of comics. So whereas I might have been more detailed at the beginning, now I figure if I'm thinking of something, I think he'll be thinking along the same lines anyway. So sometimes when I think stuff's important, I'll write more. If it's less important, I'll write less, because he's a great artist. He knows what he's doing, and obviously, he knows that this is just a guideline. Like, he'll add a panel in or he'll take a panel out because he knows what he's doing. He's really good at what he does. But the way I see it is, my job as a writer is to make sure that the artist can just draw. So I try to be as detailed. I'll talk about how many panel, what size panels should be. Sometimes it'll be more detailed, sometimes it'll be less detailed. Sometimes I'll literally just be like, right, this is going to be the largest panel, this is going to be the smallest panel, these are medium-sized panels. Sometimes I'll say, oh, why don't we do 4 panels, the full width of the page, each of them equally spaced, because I'm trying to kind of take away the ambiguity for him so he can just draw rather than thinking about what he needs to draw. But yeah, it really does vary. Sometimes it'll be more detailed, sometimes it'll be less detailed. Sometimes I hate writing fight scenes, honestly. Like, the last pages to get written in any of my scripts are like action or fight scenes. I'll just like fight scene and then I'll skip it. I'll come back to it later. And that's that is probably what will give me the most trouble, is the kind of, unless it's like an action set piece, just kind of generic fight scenes. I find them really hard.
Thing is, they can be quite, especially in like books and things. Fight scenes can be quite divisive in that, I've read some books and the books are really good, but the fight scenes are just boring as hell. You've got to put a lot of nuance and depth into fight scenes to sort of kind of get people to sort of kind of buy into it. And, you'll find that, like, George R. R. Martin, he ignores a lot of fighting and stuff simply because I don't think he likes it, because you'll find he just literally, in the Game of Thrones books, you'll have lots of things about describing, a piece of food or a building or a person or, a house or something like that. But when it comes to a war, it's just like, and it's over and they died and that's it. Yeah. And they sort of kind of...
Ultimately, like, the fight itself is like the least important part. It's the conflict.
Yeah.
Why they're fighting is what's interesting. So no matter what's happening, I always want, like, even fight scenes to be telling part of the story. Like what are we saying about the characters by the way that this is happening or what they're doing? Like, what is the the scenario, that how can we kind of build this into it so it's not just 2 guys punching each other, because that is boring. You want to tell about your characters through that somehow, and that is quite a challenging thing to do.
Is what's the difference between writing for a graphic novel or like comic book than sort of maybe writing a novel?
Oof, I've never written a novel, so I couldn't tell you.
Would you say, obviously, when you write one of your books, is it a case of you would write because obviously you have limited space on a page for certain things, so you can't go into lots of detail. Like, whereas if it's a novel, you literally can have loads of detail to sort of describe things. Do you find that it's quite restrictive and you're trying to get things across? Does that make it harder for you because you want to sort of show what's going on, or is that because that's what the pictures are there for? Effectively, that's what the art's there for, to sort of kind of fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I would say for me, I find it actually the other way around. So writing a comic would be easier because when I'm writing a script, it's very like utilitarian. All I have to worry about is the details and getting them across to the artist to, express that. If I was writing a book, I'd be so worried about my writing style. Keeping that consistent. Making the prose interesting to read as well as the story. In a way, I just have to concentrate on the story and the dialogue. I don't have to worry about how the writing itself comes across, because the only person who's seeing the writing is Luke, and Mika when he does the letters. And I can only imagine like the editing process of going through, a 600-page novel and making sure all that lines up. That's absolutely terrifying to me.
So how do you go about then? So you've got if you want to describe a scene, so obviously the artist has to go by your steer on. So your character's in a tent, and then do you have to describe what's in that tent, or do you just sort of kind of let them? You go, he's in a tent. It's vaguely like this. Go, you do your thing.
It would depend what was important. If any items were going to be used later or picked up, or say, they're going to knock over a lantern that's going to set the tent on fire, I'd make sure all that was set up, to make sure that he doesn't start drawing and then 2 pages later he's like, shit, he's knocked over a lantern, and he's got to go back and kind of work that into it. So I would probably describe it kind of fairly detailed, but I wouldn't be stupid about it. I wouldn't get like into the minute details of there are 12 pegs holding the tent in. It's not going to matter. But I might mention the color of the tent, but then Luke often has ideas about color because he likes to do kind of thematic stuff. So I think he probably makes a lot of the kind of color choices himself.
How does it work? Do you ever have any, like, you'll send him something across and he'll draw it? Is there any times where you've kind of gone, it doesn't really fit in with what I kind of want to go with, or are you happy enough with what he sends you?
It is like a collaboration, so I do pretty much completely trust the way he wants to do stuff, and I want it to be fun for him, basically, and for him to kind of be proud of what he's working on and be excited about it as well. So there's pretty much the freedom to do anything. If something's kind of, we very rarely kind of go over things. I think there was a couple of times when I was like, a couple of the characters there was in Joseph Merrick's kind of freak show at the time, there was a couple called Roper's Midgets who were kind of little people who were kind of tough, and they did in real life kind of stick up for him, when people were being awful, and a couple of times they looked kind of out of proportion, and I was like, oh, could we kind of shrink them a little bit and kind of make it look a bit better, and we did that, but mostly he gives me pages in my inbox and I'm like, this just looks brilliant. I couldn't imagine it being any better than this. It's just really captured it. And yeah, I'm happy for him to experiment and get, try and grow as an artist rather than trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Do you hide any Easter eggs? Sorry.
No, you work well. Yeah.
Okay, so in a lot of comics, especially things like Marvel and DC, and they tend to hide little things about their other comic characters in different panels from a different comic book. Did that make sense? I hope it did.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Is there something specific belonging to you or to Luke or to anyone involved that you like to put into your comics, like a treat for your readers or for yourselves? Why not?
We've kind of tried to. We put a few things in that kind kind of point towards things that are going to happen in the future, because I really like the idea that if people have been paying attention, they'll kind of have more of an idea what's going to happen. So when something happens in a later issue, it doesn't seem like it's come out of nowhere. Like, even if you haven't noticed it, you can go back to earlier ones and see where the seed's been planted for that. Like an example of this would be we've kind of done some, I don't know, subtle hints or maybe less so subtle hints that we're going to be doing a kind of a Bram Stoker's Dracula thing, which is going to come in starting from the next issue. And if people have really been paying attention, you know, I think the beginning of that is kind of mentioned in like issue 2. So that's kind of really far back. It's jumping, you know, like almost 10 issues forward. We've kind of had the seeds of that planted. And I think there's been we've put like random bits of like occult stuff and, you know, random historical, just little bits throughout for people who are paying attention. The Baker Street Irregulars from Sherlock Holmes. I handily mentioned, obviously, because Arthur Conan Doyle is kind of in the story. Just more things like that rather than of other comics.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Are there any, once you've done this run, unless obviously it's going to be a long run, like you said, is there anything you would sort of, you've thought about you would move on to? Would it be in the same vein? Would you do something completely different?
So yeah, there's some other stuff. So we did a spin-off called Treves: A Restless Night, which is kind of a 48 odd page. I call it a graphic novella because it's got it's got a spine. It's not like a single issue comic book, but it's not really thick enough to be like a graphic novel, and it's just kind of a self-contained story that's based on Frederick Treves, one of the characters from the main comic, the doctor who looked after the Elephant Man. It's based on his journals traveling through India. So obviously, like the main series, that starts off historical and based on his actual journeys and his travels, and then it turns into a full-blown horror story. That one, it's basically like a H.P. Lovecraft kind of horror. So I did like the idea of kind of giving the supporting cast, each of them, like their own kind of mini story. And also I've written another series, which is kind of a mini series spin-off in that Treves: A Restless Night that we were just talking about. A lantern ends up in space. So I have written a mini series about that lantern's adventures, which is kind of like a bit more it's kind of Lovecraftian, but also kind of sci-fi, so a bit like a H.G. Wells kind of Victorian science fiction vibe to it. So I would really love to do that one. I think that's a 4-issue series that I've written and completely edited, so that's just sat there waiting for some time, basically. But yeah, I'm really actually quite excited about that one.
And do you think that, I don't know, as your support grows and as the number of fans grows, okay, do you think that you will ever turn this into, I don't know, something like a TV series or a movie or a web series or something of that sort?
I don't think I'd be able to, because I don't have like anywhere near the resources, and I can't really imagine having them. And it's always well, yeah, it's always primarily been the idea of a comic book. I have been dabbling with the idea of trying to do maybe a short film or something completely different, because I would like to try and do different things. I just really like making stuff, so I like comics. I set out to make some comics. I made some comics. Me and a couple of friends have talked about trying to do like a short film or something, but it hasn't gone much further than that. And obviously lockdown, that was kind of towards the start of lockdown. I mean, really, I should have been working on the script. I haven't, because like I said, I hate writing. But yeah, I do like the idea of trying other things and learning new skills. Like, I think it would be a lot of fun just with a couple of friends to try and make a short film just to see if you could. It wouldn't necessarily be anything to do with this, but it would probably be in the same kind of vein. of the kind of supernatural, not horror, not quite horror kind of mystery thing.
So would you like it to be? Sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No.
Right.
You carry on.
No, I just wanted to know if you would like this short film idea. Would you like it to be a real life thing or animation? Like a real people.
Probably real life, but like, who doesn't love like practical effects? Like, to mess around and make some kind of practical effects and make some kind of weird monster puppet or something with like someone from Evil Dead. Like, how much fun would that be?
I'll watch it.
We had Dana Fredsty, who she was in Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. She was one of the sword masters on the show, and she also played one of the Deadites, I believe.
That's right, Deadite Captain.
Yeah, she was a Deadite captain and stuff. The thing is, if you've got it in you to create your own comic book, self-publish it, and be successful with it, then a short film surely can't be that far of a stretch. All you need is like cameras these days. You can do it on your phone. You could do it if you've got a half decent, phone and stuff. You could do these things,
That's the thing. It's like the time we live in now. It's absolutely it's outrageous what you can do. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, just the phone in your pocket. It has the potential to do things that like studios couldn't do like 10, 15 years ago. Like when you hear bands now that are recording like records in their bedrooms, and it sounds better than going to like a full studio with a full desk and all the gear. Like, it is insane. And like, I think for a lot of people, kind of the sky's the limit what you can do, really. If you're willing to sit there and figure out how to do it. Like, there's so many ways to do basically anything.
See, my age, like I've got massive delusions of grandeur when it comes to stuff. Like especially when I first started Geek Pride, I was just like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do videos and we're going to do all this stuff. The problem I have is I'm a massive fucking control freak. And so it's like, I have to do all the editing, I have to do all the filming, I have to have all the equipment, I have all this. So I've got all this stuff. I've got about a bazillion cameras. I've got microphones galore. I've got all kinds of crazy shit. But because, through bad experiences and by, mainly bad experiences. So I feel like I need to do everything myself. I just it never gets done because, it's just like other people don't have time. And, it's, I would love to do, like I wrote, we did this thing years and years ago, for like a giveaway. And it was basically a fan fiction sort of competition where you had to decide. You had yourself and 4 characters from pop culture, so they could be fictional or from games, from books, whatever you want, and they were your sort of a zombie apocalypse team, and you had to sort of have an area where you lived, and that was basically where your base was, and you had to sort of tell a story about what happened in that area, how you got food, how you survived, how these characters came to be and stuff like this. And I wrote a 14-page sort of, it was only meant to be like a 2-page thing, but I went overboard and like 14 pages, and I've always wanted to make that into sort of like a dramatized podcast. And at one point in time, it's like, I'm going to get a bunch of guys from Geek Pride and we're all going to do this. We're going to do this, but it's never happened. I've never got it, just because getting people together, getting everything edited, all that other stuff, and it's like, I'll just buy board games.
Lineup is like insanely hard, can't it? And getting the right people involved in something so everyone's kind of going in the right direction. It's hard to do, but when you pull it off, like, it really does pay off. Like, it sounds like such a shitty corporate buzzword, but like synergy really is everything, where everyone's kind of bringing something different, and the end product becomes more than any of the individual parts. I hate and love the word because it does sound like some proper 80s yuppie office shit.
Just don't use blue sky thinking. It's all about blue sky thinking. Like I work for a solicitors, and there's lots of sort of buzzwords like blue sky thinking and going offline and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh no, please don't use those words. I'm lucky my boss is a super nerd and he loves comics and stuff like that. So, you know, it's all good. So, yeah. So when you're not doing comic books, what are you doing? What's your thing? What other sort of kind of, do you have any other nerdy pursuits, or is that sort of kind of your line? It's like it's
these days no one's doing much of nothing, are they?
Yeah.
Like these days, like with lockdown, I've kind of pulled out the old Xbox 360 and started obsessively like getting all the achievements on games. Like, it's just I don't know, it's just something to do. Yeah, Dark Souls. Ever played Dark Souls? Love Dark Souls. Played that through 3 times in lockdown. Got all the achievements. Did the same with Dark Souls 2. Like, yeah, just absolute glutton for punishment. To the point of being like quite obsessive about it. And that's about it. What else? There's nothing going on. Reading comics, playing some video games. I used to play in an 80s covers band.
Oh, right, no way. What band was it?
We called Chill Collins.
Ah, right.
Played like Phil Collins and Wham and
Wham.
All Oates. And that was a lot of fun, just kind of getting paid to hang out with my friends, have a laugh, play some tunes. Obviously, that's not happening for a while. But yeah, comics, video games, music. Really into music. Like we talked before, really love kind of punk rock, hardcore, that kind of thing. Going to festivals with my mates. But yeah, just I think honestly my favorite hobby is making stuff. I don't know, like kind of the video games has been a way to kind of tear my brain off and kind of relax, because otherwise I'll just kind of stare at a screen and work on a script and then try to go to sleep and I'm still thinking about a script because I want to finish it or I want to do the next part. So kind of something that I can have to actively be engaged in without the temptation to check my phone or check a message or go on Twitter is kind of nice, really. Yeah, but like, yeah, just going through old school Xbox 360 games.
Oh man, I couldn't deal with Dark Souls, man. Even I played the board game, which was fucking just as bad, and the game itself, I was just like, yeah, I just couldn't deal with it. I had it, I played it, I got killed many times. I went, fuck this game, I'm not playing this anymore.
Yeah,
This is why I play Farmville.
sorry.
I said this is why I play Farmville. Nobody dies. Pick crops.
No, man, because like I'm like, I have too many hobbies. My sort of slight what's the word for it? It's an anxiety, I guess. I have an anxiety simply because I'm into everything. Like I literally dabble in everything, and if there's something I don't do, I try it, and then it's a thing I do. And so music's a thing. Music was a massive thing for me. Gaming's a massive thing for me. Model making's a massive thing for me. Poetry, history, videography, podcasts, websites. I try to do pretty much everything. And because I do everything, I fail at everything because I don't sort of have enough time to sort of put enough into. Whereas you maybe sort of, you got your comic books, you got your music, and the computer games are like a sideshow, effectively, aren't they? Sort of something to keep you busy. Whereas me, everything is all the time, and then I can't just focus my mind on something. And because I can't get one thing done, I stress about all the other things and stuff. It's just like my mind's just constantly going bam, 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 bam.
I'm very actually quite similar, but I know I can be quite obsessive about things, so I try and focus on stuff.
Yeah.
And I got really into writing lists, so lists of things that I want to do and want to achieve, or even down to I will write lists of what films I want to watch, what TV shows I want to watch, what books I want to read, because otherwise I'll find myself watching things that I don't actually want to watch, or because they're there, or reading something because it's there. And so I try to keep like a strong focus on what I actively am interested in. And I find that helps a lot. But yeah, so yeah, I will list out everything just to kind of stay on focus, because I know if I get involved, I will get enthusiastic about everything and anything. It's overwhelming, doesn't it? And you don't know what to do.
You procrastinate. You
Um,
procrastinate.
yeah, we bought our first house, and it was a complete wreck. So the last few years of this has been completely refurbishing a house by myself, literally, taking all the windows apart, putting them back together, pulling the floors up, like new walls, like everything. It was disgusting. The windows were smashed. It was like a proper wreck of a house. But obviously, it meant we could have a house. So it started me living in one room, getting that into a livable state, and sleeping on a futon, and then work on the next room, and then work on the next room. And it's kind of it's been a bit weird that we kind of just got the last room finished.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, there's not a room I have to go in sand, or like fill. So that's been quite strange to actually not have that to do now. Obviously there's still lots of like little bits here and there to do, but no like just walking into a barren, floorboards, walls falling apart, ceiling fell down kind of room, which it's kind of nice, because you just got to go in and do one thing. But yeah, so that's been strange not having that to do as well.
That's the one thing, man, I have zero interest in when it comes to DIY. Like we're buying a house up the road, and my missus is getting all excited about how she wants to rip up. See, I bought this house because it's pretty much refurbished all within, bar a bit of sort of guttering that needs to be done. I'm going to get a builder to do, and some bits and pieces. I'm just like, I don't have to do anything in this house. It's pretty much done. Where she's like talking about ripping up sort of like carpets and putting in wooden floors and putting in all these crazy things on the walls and stuff. And I'm just like sitting there going, no, not
You're gonna do it anyway. So
I'll have to, because she's told, because it's basically. But I've dug myself my own grave, because I'm buying the house. It's my house. I'm buying it. But I said, look, I don't care about the rest of the house. All I want is my man cave and a place for my books, and that's it. And you can do whatever you want with the rest of the house. And she's went, right, okay. And I'm just sitting there kind of going, oh shit, I should have put a few more sort of
rookie mistake,
a few more stipulations in that, because I'm going to have my man cave, which but bearing in mind, I'm buying the house, so it's my house, but it's just like, I've said I'll have the man cave, and I have a room upstairs, and, even the room upstairs was just for my books, but she's kind of gone, right, so I've got the main room, the spare room, downstairs, the kitchen, all this other stuff, and she's like going on, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and I'm going to spend all my time painting this and ripping this up, and I'm like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? I just want
know, but you deserve whatever punishment you get.
Yeah, well, it's like I just want my man cave back. I used to have in my old house. I used to have a beautiful, beautiful man cave that I got made. It was an old garage. It was converted. I got my gaming table in there. I had my computer in there. I had my millions of Lord of the Rings figures on display. It was literally perfect. It was like everything I ever wanted in a man cave. It had a key entry onto the door, so you literally had to press keys to get into the room and stuff. That's how awesome it was. And all I want is that again. I just want that one man space that I've got to sort of just sit there and go, this is my stuff. This is my accumulation of 30 odd years of sort of life, and this is all I want. And then I'll be happy. That's it. I don't want boxes everywhere. I want my stuff. I've got some amazing cool stuff to display. I want to see it, and I want people to see it, I know. It's just the life of a nerd, I'm just really bad with collectibles. What do you buy? Do you have collectibles? Do you do collectibles at all?
I try. I'm like so tight with my money. It's unreal, man. I am like, I try not to buy anything, mainly because I'm broke, and two, because I'm an indie comic creator. So I pay, you know, the artist, the letterer, and then, you know, we run the Kickstarter. So kind of what I try to do now is kind of like accumulate some money. And I was like, well, I could get an artist to put a pitch together for a new Kickstarter page. We could launch a new book. So
you're sensible then, basically. You're a sensible person, unlike me, who's not a sensible person. Yeah.
Probably far beyond sensible to being unreasonable. But yeah, that's the way it is. Luckily, you know, my girlfriend buys me lots of comics for like Christmas and my birthday, so I always books, comics to read. And kind of, yeah, obviously we've been doing the house, so that's been a big thing for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of, I really just want to concentrate on like making stuff myself rather than kind of getting other stuff in, because I get quite anxious about that as well. But yeah, so kind of at the minute I'm kind of thinking about, you know, what can I do next, like what project can I kind of launch, and what can we do. So that's kind of what I would be working towards.
See, that I wish it was like that. I just sort of, you know, you've got sort of discipline. You've got a sort of like, you've got a goal. I don't
write lists of everything like a crazy person.
Yeah, well,
like, your lists.
The thing is, I've got my problem is my lists consist of all kinds of crazy stuff. So Geek Pride being, you know, I've cut down. Like, I remember when we first started, we tried to be this overarching everything website, and it was getting to the point where I'd get home from work and I'd be straight on to Geek Pride, and I'd be editing stuff, I'd be writing articles, I'd be trying to get people to write articles, I'd be trying to get people on board, blah, 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 and it was taking up in a full day of literally just constantly doing stuff. And it got to the point where I had to sort of basically just stop, and I was just like, I can't carry on like this. It's way too hard. So I basically do what I can, but it's just like, even the list, if I wanted to list things out, it's just like, I want to do this, 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 and it doesn't work for me. And it's just like, I'm just chaos. My mind is chaos. I wish I had a disciplined mind like you do. I just don't think I've got it in me. It's just, it's a clusterfuck, basically.
Get your list, have a look at it, have it on post-it notes,
right?
Work out which is the most important to you, and start prioritizing them, and start building your lists up that way. Then just start chipping away. You'll get it all done.
Do you know what? You know what I'll do is then I'll in my new house, I'll get myself a board, and I'll do that.
A cork board with post-it notes of things to do on.
Yeah, I'll do. All right, I'll take your advice. I'll in my new house, I'll take it as a new start, and I'll start prioritizing things and see how it goes. And then we'll come back to you. We'll have another meeting, and we'll see. And then we'll just say, you know, yeah, that worked, or what have you done to me?
You won't turn back. I
promise. Okay. I did have something else I was going to say, but I cannot remember what it was now.
So while Matt
thinks,
I will have to say goodbye because it's 12:30 in the morning. So I will be out. Thank you so much for chatting with us. I really loved talking to you. I saw your Twitter before, and I was like, I don't know. But seeing you in person actually does create that connection that you mentioned at some point in our chat. So yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you.
I will read the rest of your comics because it's really good.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, and hopefully we'll see you again. Okay.
Definitely.
Bye.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Oh, there we go. There's Cristina, our Romanian correspondent. That's the word. Yeah, correspondent. Yeah, she's been here for quite a while. Do you know the interesting little factoid? Cristina jumped in because she was mistaken for a giveaway. We did a giveaway, and I sent her a message by mistake for something when it was meant to be, I think, her friend. And then she went, oh yeah, this isn't for me, this thing, but I'm really interested in this. And she joined in. I just went, yeah, why don't you just sort of jump in? And that's where we got her from. So, just random people. Do you see yourself like when it comes to sort of your well, it's not your employees, your partners? Did you find them by searching them out, or did they come to you? How did that work?
So initially, kind of, I wrote the first 4 scripts and I had them finished, because I kind of just tried to do everything that I could do by myself first, so that I was in a kind of, a good position basically. And then I kind of hit some kind of internet message boards. Kind of, I'm saying kind of a lot. I know that's irritating. Sorry.
Kind of.
So yeah, I hit up some internet message boards, kind of writers seeking artists, artists seeking writers, and I did have an artist lined up to do it. Unfortunately, they dropped out to do video game design work, and then I kind of put it on the back burner a little bit, because that was quite disheartening actually, because I thought we were getting going, and then it was kind of a bit of a roadblock, and we stopped. And then I kind of just kept looking at the message boards, and I saw Luke post his portfolio in relation to a different ad, and I was still just kind of searching through and looking at what people were posting, and I saw his portfolio, and I was like, this guy would be perfect for this comic. So I sent him a message, kind of like a pitch. So I was like, I've got this idea for a comic. This is what it's about. This is the kind of overview. I've got the first 4 scripts. Would you be interested in reading them? Would you be interested in drawing the comic? And he was piqued his interest. He checked it out. He was into it. So that's how I kind of met Luke, and we started off doing this. We did have a different letterer on the first few issues. He kind of stopped doing comics, and I was looking for another letterer, and Mika had a really good reputation. At this point, I'd met other creators and kind of had a bit of a network. So I reached out to him and was like, are you free to do some lettering? Are you interested in doing this book? And he was like, yeah, sure. And he's been great, really good to work with, really fast, really professional. And it's kind of just a really, really solid team now, I think. Like you say, it's not employees, it's partners. It's more like a band where there's just different individuals kind of working on the same project to get to the same end result. It just comes out really good. Maybe if we did get bigger and we got more kind of, we brought in bigger numbers of money on Kickstarter, or we got bigger budgets, potentially we might bring a colorist on board if Luke wanted to, something like that, just to kind of be able to get through pages faster. Obviously, when there's only 3 of us, we don't have that fast turnaround. Mainstream comics are doing monthly issues. Like, we're working around everything else we're doing in our lives. We can't just be sat there doing an 8-hour workday on the comic every day, Monday to Friday, as fun as that'd be. So our release schedule is a little bit more sporadic. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're up to. The 3 of us kind of moving forward, I think, on this.
Is it something you would look to, like a full-time sort of, is it the aim to have it as a full-time sort of thing? Or is it literally just a passion?
I don't know whether that's the aim. It would be great if all I had to worry about was just working on this comic. That would be a lot of fun. And I would really enjoy doing that. I think the aim is just to kind of make the best book that we can make. Ultimately, the goal was to set out and make 1 issue of a comic, because I had a bucket list, and one of the items on my bucket list I decided was to make a comic. So we created the first issue before we launched, and I kind of funded that out of pocket, because my goal was make a comic book, and then I assumed the Kickstarter would fail, and I could go, well, I tried. I want to make a comic book. I made a comic book. I can cross that off and move on with whatever. But it succeeded, so now we kind of just continuing to make it. So the goal now is, I would love to get to the end of the overarch that we talked about, and just make a really solid book. I would love for people to look back, like, in the future, and just be like, that is a really solid independent comic book series, and they kind of just did it themselves. They didn't ask for any favors, didn't have any publishers, they didn't have anyone big pushing them, but they did this kind of unbelievable run. And that's kind of the goal, I guess.
I suppose it's something for you and it's your legacy, isn't it? It's something you can sort of. It's not about bragging, but it's something you can feel like it's an achievement. You know, if you ever had kids and stuff, you can go. You would go, well, this is something I created with these hands right here. This is something I created.
Yeah, ultimately, like, this is the comic that I would want to read.
Yeah.
Like, if it didn't exist and I walked into a shop and this was the comic there, I would be like, this sounds like my shit. Like, I want to get involved in this, and I'd read it and I would think, this is cool. I love it. And I do genuinely, when the new books come back from the printers, I'll make a coffee and, I'll get cozy and I'll put a little lamp on and I'll sit there and I'll read the whole series from the start and I'll be like,
yeah. It's like me listening to my own music. Oh yeah, that's good. Totally good.
That you obviously you kind of you know what's happening, and you can never really enjoy it in the same way as someone else.
Yeah.
But I am super proud of what we've done, and I do sit there and I hope it's not just kind of like ego and big headedness when I sit there and I think, this is good. Like, we remade this and it genuinely is good, because I am so overly critical about everything, and I think I am that critical. I apply that to my own work as well. So when I'm confident that it's good, I do genuinely hope that that's the case, because I do sit there and I'll work on it, and if the script's shit, I'll think this is shit, and then I'll just work on it until it's not shit, and then it's good. But yeah, like, that is kind of, I make it because it's the comic that I want to see. And I think a lot of creators, if not most, I think that is what they are aiming for or should be aiming for. I think when you kind of lose that is when stuff starts to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah. I've always wanted to make my own board game, like, forever. Like, from being a child to sort of writing rules down for random things to sort of always wanted to make my own board game. And I've got this idea for like a 4D type, multi-layered sort of strategy / tactical war game. And one of these days I'm going to do it. It's not going to make any money because it's going to be so convoluted and huge and things, but I just want to do it because I've just done it.
The goal is not to make the number one board game in the world or the best-selling board game in the world. It's like the goal is just to make the board game.
Yeah.
Like, you see on Kickstarter, like, people are mad for board games on Kickstarter. They do huge numbers. Like, if you just sit there and you just work on it, and obviously you're a big fan of board games, you've played a lot of them, you know, there's no one who knows better how to do it than that kind of person. So if you just keep chipping away at it, like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, the thing is, my taste in board games is a lot of people like fast-paced games, things that don't like me and like my brother and stuff. We're born in like strategic war games and stuff that last like 18 hours plus days, things really go on, and people aren't into that sort of thing anymore. So all I want is one day to make this game.
There's going to be enough, isn't there? You only need to make a comic, you only really need about 100 people who are into it. Like, to make a board game, it's probably a bit more expensive, but what you need, like 600 people, like, out of the whole planet, there's going to be 600 people into it.
But again, it's just so I have it, and something's like, this is something I made, and this is I know I've got my website and my band, but the board game thing has been something I've been banging on about for years, and it's just like I have history behind it, and like factions, what the factions are going to be, and I've got sort of all kinds of things for it, and I'm just like, and I've even got ideas of how things could work. And there are certain board games that, as time gone on, I've sort of plucked away at certain bits I wanted, but I'm just like, I could do this. One of these days I could do this. Even if I get just a prototype copy that I've made, and I can go, there you go, I've made my own board game.
Yeah, that's exactly how I thought out this. Exactly the same.
Right, okay, I'm inspired now.
Do it.
So it's post-it notes, and my own board game. So when next time we talk, we'll be there.
Break everything down into small bites, achievable, and don't worry about the big picture. just chip away at the little bits, and the big picture will reveal itself. That's the key.
Oh, he's a motivational talker as well. Oh, never felt so inspired. Right. Okay. Well, on that sort of inspirational note, you can do it if you organize yourself and you just want to do it. Just chip away at it, ladies and gentlemen. You can do it. So yeah, I might do that and stuff if Dungeons and Dragons doesn't take over most of my life. But it's just. Anyway, so yes, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Tom. It's been amazing. Really, really good chat. Really interesting. And good luck with the run of the comics. I really do hope you great success and future rivaling the big ones later on down your life.
It's not rivaling. It's its own. We're over here doing our own thing.
Yeah, that's the hardcore way, isn't it? So yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thanks for your time. For me, sorry.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Is there actually before I sort of sign off and stuff? Is there any websites, Kickstarters, anything people should know about?
Yeah, so if you go to our web store, which is www.merrick.co.uk, you can kind of see the stuff we've already released. There's also the free download of issue 1. We've got the Kickstarter for Merrick the Sensational Elephant Man Volume 2. I think the best way to find that is maybe just search it on Google or search it in Kickstarter and it'll come up. That is already 250% funded with 26 days to go, so that's doing really well. Nice. Obviously, all those issues are already finished and we're just reprinting them into a softback, so it'll be a really fast turnaround. I'm probably confident enough that we are going to get the files to the printers before the campaign's even over. So by the time money is out of people's accounts, I think I will probably have the books already, so they will go out the first day.
So that's another good thing about comic books and stuff, whereas board games will take a year, 2 years sort of to get through. Comic books, there's quite a fast turnaround.
Well, it depends. Well, like when we do the single issues, we'll generally just have about 6 pages of art, and then we'll use the funding to pay Luke and Mika. So it can take a while they are doing the art, but because this is a reprint, yeah, it's all there. So
all right, cool.
We'll be our fastest one yet, basically. And yeah, we've done a bit of a giveaway today on Twitter. So if you go to my Twitter feed, you'll be able to see it. My Twitter is @highbrowtrash. We're giving away a copy of our paperback, our first paperback. If you just retweet the tweet that I sent out with the Kickstarter link and the store, and give me and the rest of the team a follow. And next Sunday, I'll pick a name out of a hat, and we'll get that book out to someone. I think we might do a couple more of those if you watch Luke's Instagram page and maybe the Merrick Facebook page as well. Probably do a giveaway on each social media platform, I reckon, and try and kind of get as funded as possible. Brilliant.
Well, best of luck. Thank you very much again. Really appreciate the chat and the inspirational words to sort of push me forwards. If I ever do make my board game, it'll be because of you, sir.
Oh, I'll give you credit.
I will. Yeah, I will. There you go. Okay, so ladies and gents, thanks a lot for everybody for watching. For myself, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Ellison.
Good night, everyone, and take care of each other.
Cristina, who's left. Goodbye, everybody. And Tom Ward.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Good
Bye.
night.